Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council meeting on this beautiful Monday, April 15th. Happy Tax Day. With that, the City Council thanks you for being a part of your city government meetings. The city takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available on the city's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. For those physically present, as you enter immediately on the right on that small table, there are also agendas there. The meeting is being televised live on PSC TV channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and in Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and on GoToWebinar. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. The public may submit their comments and or ask questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. Mr. City Manager, do we have Mr. Cruz here tonight? Oh, all right. I thought I heard the echo. Yeah, so lastly, we'd like to announce the presence of our Spanish interpreter, Mr. Cruz. If you'll put your hand back up. Yep, he's back there. So if you need assistance, please reach out to Mr. Cruz. We do have the audio headsets for anyone in need. And if anyone needs that assistance, go ahead and make yourself known. Seeing none, I think either that or Mr. Cruz, you're ahead of the curve, so I appreciate you jumping in on that. So with that, we will move to our agenda. Miss Clerk.
Council members Barajas.
Miss Barajas is excused. She had sent me an email before the meeting and asked for excuse, so she is excused tonight.
Thank you. Council member Blaisdell.
Present.
Grimm.
Here.
Harpster.
Present.
Morales.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Present.
And Mayor Serrano.
I am present. With that, if we can all move to item number 3, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That moves us on to item number 4, which is consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by the roll call vote as one motion, as listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. So with that, item letter A, approval of the meeting minutes from March 22nd, 20th, and 23rd, and April 1st and April 8th. Item B, bills and communications approving claims in the total amount of $5,382,743.70 and write-off of $30,774. Item C, resolution number 4441, change order number 3, approval to PWRF Phase 2 improvements. And item D, resolution number 4442, change order number 5 for the I-82 Broadmoor Boulevard Interchange Project. With that, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. With that, all in favor, or Miss Clerk, it's a roll call.
All right. Council member Blaisdell.
Yes.
Council member Grimm.
Yes.
Council member Harpster.
Yes.
Council member Morales.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Yes.
And Mayor Serrano.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. With that, item number 5, proclamations and acknowledgements. There are none. Item number 6, public comments. The public may address council on any item unless it relates to a scheduled public hearing. This item is provided to allow the opportunity to bring items to the attention of city council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the posing of questions with the expectation of immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time and after deliberative process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed to staff who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes each by myself. Those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. Lastly, when called upon, please state your name and city or county of residency in the microphone before providing your comments. With that, we are now open for public comment. Yeah, there you go.
Hello. Hi, my name is Caitlin Ashford. I am from Kennewick, and I am a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I am here again to speak about the subject of a city council resolution for a ceasefire for the genocidal conflict in Palestine. Primarily, I want to address and stress that this is absolutely a local issue, and we can absolutely accomplish something with a local resolution. Cities around the nation have introduced ceasefire resolutions since the conflict escalated to new heights in October of last year. Atlanta, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, Spokane issued a resolution calling for a peace. Over 100 cities across the U.S. have issued ceasefire resolutions, and in 6 months, Pasco has not yet even introduced the idea for discussion. What would a ceasefire resolution do? Since the genocide escalated in October, local members of the PSL, members of the local Muslim community, and other organizers and activists have made incredible efforts in political organizing for an end to this genocide. Early in the genocide, these organizers spoke with staff of and directly to Representative Dan Newhouse, our district's federal representative in Congress who has the power to introduce measures against U.S. financial support of Israel. We took multiple avenues to relay our concerns and demands of the public who have come out to the streets in protest and stand against their tax money going to genocide. Newhouse declined to listen, and now we come to you. With a ceasefire resolution, by simply picking up a pen, the city of Pasco, you, among many other things, can put pressure on Representative Dan Newhouse to take action, making it unignorable that his constituents do not want continued U.S. support of Israel or this conflict. You can join your fellow city councils around the nation in a historical movement for peace and liberation. Think about that. What side of history do you want to stand on? You can create a domino effect. People are dying. All I'm asking you to do is introduce a resolution. That is all.
Thank you. Any additional comment?
Hey, good evening. My name is Amber Bruce. I'm a resident of Pasco, and I'm here with my friends from PSL to urge the council to make a statement condemning U.S. tax dollars funding war crimes in Gaza. Gaza is a small strip of land that could fit the length of the Tri-Cities, from Two Rivers Park in Findlay to Flat Top Mountain in West Ridgeland. It's a densely populated area with 2.2 million people in that small space. For the past 6 months, Israel has been carrying out what has been described as the heaviest bombing campaign in the history of modern warfare. They've dropped the equivalent of 3 atomic bombs, Hiroshima 3 times over, destroying nearly 2/3 of the residential buildings in the Gaza Strip. That would be over 70,000 homes in Benton and Franklin County. But the population in Gaza is nearly 10 times that of the Tri-Cities. Israel has dropped 2,000-pound bombs that kill every human within the range of a football field. And Israel's 972 magazine reports that each bomb is intended to kill one suspected Hamas member in his own home, along with everyone else in the apartment building. According to the report, the army deemed it acceptable to knowingly kill 20 civilians for one suspected junior Hamas member and over 100 for a high-level leader. Because of this mathematical calculation, more children have been killed in Gaza in the last 6 months than have been killed in all wars around the world in the past 4 years. As a Christian, I stand with Palestinian Christians who are being killed simply for living in Palestine. Many Christians seem to think that supporting the modern state of Israel is a part of their duty. But as Tucker Carlson said recently, if you decide your Christian faith requires you to support a foreign government blowing up churches and killing Christians, I think you've lost the thread. Instead of condemning the genocide and enacting an arms embargo, the United States has continued to send weapons and funds, with more than 100 shipments of weapons going to Israel since October 7th, including a military package at the end of March that was authorized to send 2,000 more 2,000-pound bombs. Instead of conditioning weapons and funding so that Israel would have to allow food in and stop killing civilians, there's been no red line for the U.S. Lawmakers are now considering $14.1 billion more in additional military funding to Israel. Under the international laws of war, citizens are legally bound to disobey the orders of any government that supports acts of genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. This includes orders to pay taxes. It is inappropriate for U.S. tax dollars to be funding this war. I urge Pasco City Council to make a resolution condemning U.S. tax dollars funding war crimes in Gaza. Thank you.
Do we have any additional comments?
Good evening. My name is Carl Bettner, and I'm from Spokane, and I've spoken here once before. Thank you. I first want to say thank you for listening. You've given me 3 minutes, and I appreciate it very much. I'm here really in support of these folks that are trying to speak up on behalf of the community members. I'm not a member of the community, but I've told you I have gone to Spokane City Council and have urged upon them a ceasefire resolution. So I've been an attorney since 1984. In my career, I was most recently a state administrative law judge. Before that, I took DCS child support cases from the state of Washington out to the tribal courts around Spokane, and I did that for 12 years. Also in my career, I've done prosecution of child abuse and neglect cases. What I'm trying to say is that my career has mainly been about trying to protect children or get the child support that they need or the public assistance that they need. And so since retiring on August 1st, it's been horrifying, really, to see what's happened with my tax dollars in Gaza. Gaza is 25 miles long. So now I'm no expert here, but by my reckoning, as the crow flies, that's about 2.5 miles west of Benton City from here. 25 miles, that's the total length of Gaza, the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is only between 3.7 miles wide and 7.5 miles wide. Its widest point is 7.5 miles. Now, I walk every other day, and I walk 5.5 miles, and I know it takes me about 2 hours. So I know that if I were on the Mediterranean Sea in the Gaza Strip, I could get there to the edge of Gaza within about an hour to 3 hours. Okay, just walking. That's how small it is. Okay, and you have to appreciate that 2.2 million people between here and Benton City, with the Mediterranean out here, which might as well be an ocean. And then around you, it is a military wall. It's the Israeli army. They are penned in, and they've been bombed first from the north, and now they've been penned in, 1.7 million in Rafah. And the plan appears to be to get tents, create a tent city, take the residents of Rafah out of Rafah, drive them into the desert, and then destroy the infrastructure in Rafah. The only
Mr.
people...
Bettner, I'll ask you to wrap up.
Pardon me?
I'll ask you to please wrap up.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize.
That's okay.
I don't mean to...
No, and this
Take
is
your
information
valuable
that's
time.
totally acceptable to submit.
I'm going to wrap it up. What does it cost you? What does it cost you to simply pass a resolution saying we call on Joe Biden, the president, whatever, to put pressure on Israel to make them stop, ceasefire permanently? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment?
How you guys doing? My name is Abdul Nassar from Yakima County. I'm a Palestinian myself. Just want to say that this city should call for a ceasefire, just like many other cities in Washington have already. Whether we like it or not, it affects us here. Some might say it doesn't, but it does. In Yakima County alone, I know there's about 40 Palestinian families. Here in the Tri-Cities, I know there's at least 10, 15 Palestinian families, and everybody that I know of owns businesses. They pay a lot of taxes, you know, and it doesn't make sense that that's where our tax money is going if we're working hard here to pay it here for this country and this city and this county and everything. It should be used here. It's been 191 days of this genocide, and whether people like it or not, if you're not calling for a ceasefire, basically you're complicit, you know? Some people might have something different to say about that, but that's what it comes down to. And like I said, it's just our tax money, our tax dollars should be used here where we're at, because there's a lot of stuff that should be more important to this country than sending it overseas to bomb little children and women and men and whatever the case may be. As they said before, Gaza Strip's small. I live about 40 miles away from it in the West Bank, or that's where my family's from. And Gaza Strip is locked and closed from every single border. You know, you got the Egyptian border, it's locked and closed with, you know, concrete walls, and one side you got the sea. Nobody can escape in the sea. The other side, you got the Israeli borders. So what it's coming down to is they're just dropping these bombs on innocent people, children, women, men, and these people have nowhere to go. Even if they wanted to run away or get out, they have nowhere to go. They can escape through the Egyptian border, but Egypt is also complicit in this. They're charging $10,000 a person to get out. And this is where people are already broke, tired, poor. They don't got food to eat, you know. So I think that this city should call for a ceasefire, and that's it.
Thank you. Do we have?
My name is Annalisa Ely. I'm from Kennewick, and I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Today I want to talk about the connection between the segregation that is the history of the Tri-Cities and Pasco specifically, and the apartheid taking place in the colonial occupation project of Israel. In the 1940s, the federal government recruited around 15,000 black people from the Manhattan Project in Richland. These black workers were housed in a few situations, always segregated, whether they were in segregated barracks on the Hanford Reservation or a segregated portion of East Pasco. Black men at Hanford were more likely to be hired for so-called unskilled jobs, and so had lower pay, and at the company DuPont, black women were only allowed to be cooks or waitresses. Segregation and apartheid continue to be tools of the oppressor to this day. I'm going to read a quote from Amnesty International. Quote, "Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, successive governments have created and maintained a system of laws, policies, and practices designed to oppress and dominate Palestinians. This system plays out in different ways across the different areas where Israel exercises control over Palestinians' rights, but the intent is always the same, to privilege Jewish Israelis at the expense of Palestinians," end quote. This system includes continuous land seizures by Israeli settlers, the division of places Palestinians are allowed to live into small enclaves separated by checkpoints, ID cards that restrict movement for Palestinians but not Israelis, refusing to issue building permits to Palestinians but not Israelis, and huge differences in the quality of health and public services in Israeli versus Palestinian areas. Palestinians are also denied their civil rights, being tried in military courts though they are civilians, and often being held without charge. All of this was the case long before October 2023. Pasco has condemned the segregation that took place here and has taken steps to renounce it to the public. Today, I'm asking you to similarly condemn Israeli segregation and apartheid, as well as the atrocity of genocide that is currently being conducted by Israel.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Yeah. No, go ahead.
Wait, you push this thing?
No, you're on.
Oh, I'm on. Mary Mahoney, 5017 West Pearl, 30-plus year floodplain resident. Portion of my property is in the floodplain. This is regarding the floodplain. See the parcel numbers for the floodplain from the city council meeting on 3/18/24. I'm adding 3 additions to a public disclosure request via RCW 42.56 that I made yesterday. Addition 1 is regarding Resolution 4432. Please provide a readable map for this resolution. Page 35 is not readable. Also, provide the start dates as well as LID notice dates and assessment in dollar amounts for LID for Pearl Street residents between 48 and 52nd, and the resolution 4432 will create homelessness, and this only can be accomplished via eco-crimes and RICO violations and more. Addition 2 to the public disclosure request, please provide permits issued to the City of Pasco and Hayden Homes from the Department of Fish and Wildlife for the killing, poaching, and taking of the 7 floodplain American bald eagles. Permits would be needed to avoid fines and jail time. Okay, addition number 3, provide all potentially dangerous and dangerous dog notices issued by Tri-City Animal Control since 4/1/19. List as well the potentially dangerous and dangerous dogs that have been sent to Washington State University by Tri-City Animal Control. Those animals that have been sent for research, practice surgeries, and then killed. This is for the record and to put the City of Pasco on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, does that have to be required to be provided in writing to be official notice?
No, we'll follow up on it and take care of it.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of the process, but
Yeah,
thank you.
no, great, thank you.
Mr. Cortinas.
City Council, Mayor Serrano, Dave Cortinas, 4501 Moline Lane. I want to come before you at this time to let you know that at last Thursday's meeting with the business owners downtown, we appreciated Ms. Richa to come out, and she's not here today, but she was at the meeting on Thursday, and she presented and gave information about the funds that have been approved by you, the $370,000 that was well appreciated by the business owners. But let me tell you, none of them are going to qualify. They all have to have a UEI number. A UEI number is a federal number. I don't think even Mr. Grimm, who owns a large grocery store, has a UEI number. You have to have that number to be able to ask for federal funds. The CDBG funds are federal funds. So I ask you to look at that. First of all, we want to give thanks to Leo Perales and Melissa for making the motion to approve these funds. Yo creo que todos de ustedes que están de acuerdo, darle un aplauso a Leo Perales por su trabajo, apoyarlos a ustedes. So I ask for an applause for Leo for all the hard work that he's done and his support that he's been giving every week to the business owners. I think I'll let you know the Latin Business Association approved some funds, emergency funds, to help them with some of their bills that are now going into past due. And I think the city needs to do the same thing. These funds that have been approved, it's not going to help. there needs to be finding some more funds, and I asked the administration to please look for more funds to help these people. We know the construction people have been meeting with them every week. They've been very nice, very generous. They filled up all the potholes in the alley that the city hadn't done in years, and they did it out of the kindness of their heart. They have been very nice and very generous. The people have been very patient, and they're hurting. We have, more businesses have closed, and they're getting close to finishing the project, and they're thankful for that, and they're looking forward to April 26th when they let them know that it'll be fully open. So at this time, I'm requesting that you please put your heads together with the administration and find some emergency funds to help these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Do we have any additional public comment twice? And the third and final call for public comment. Seeing none, that will close public comment. I think I'll just kind of take a quick second, and I know the folks, you've come here several weeks in a row, and I appreciate your persistence. I will speak on my behalf, not just council's behalf. I don't foresee signing such a resolution as the mayor. Now, council has the authority to make that decision. I would dissent personally on the vote. We could have someone else sign it, but I do want to let you know that you've been heard. I take a separate position as an individual. And so while I'm not discouraging you from attending or voicing your opinion, I want you to know that you've been heard, and I think it's a respectful approach for me to at least let you know my opinion. So while we may disagree, chambers are open. So I want you to at least know that you've been heard and have some sort of response so you don't feel like it's just deaf ears. So with that, we'll move on to item number 7, which is reports from committees and or officers. So do I have any verbal reports from any council members here? Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I did attend on Wednesday. We had an Arbor Day, and it was really good. We had some school kids come out. We had quite a lot of staff. I even got to plant a tree with Adam Lincoln there, the city manager, and I think it was pretty straight. We did, I think, three trees together, and it was good to see a lot of community members came out, and we had a good time. And we do have another one in case anybody on the council wants to come out, and it's coming up. I think it's next week or a week and a half from now. But anyway, it was a good time and it was a great day. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harpster.
Thank you, sir. This week attended police simulator training with Councilman Barajas. And with all due respect to Chief Roski, it wasn't fun. The end of it was kind of fun, but it was pretty anxiety raising. And just gave me a deeper appreciation than I already have for what our officers are dealing with every day. And I've watched cops. I was raised by a cop, so I thought I'd do pretty good. And there was a lot of scenarios where I would have been killed. So it was a good first-hand experience to have the command staff explain to myself and Councilman Barras what their officers are dealing with every day. So that was good. And then attended Ben Franklin Transit meeting for Councilmember Grimm. That'll be the last time I fill in for him there. They did discuss a couple items related to Pasco. Specifically, they're looking to build a transit center at the intersection of 11th and Clark. There's like some tool store over there, I guess. And they've got a final draft. So it was a little weird. There's been very little public input, and they're kind of in the final stages, so more to come on that. They already own the property. Had conversations with the folks currently renting that property. And then the other one was they're looking to, most was probably no purchase property somewhere in the northwest corner of Pasco for a park and ride. Either in the Broadmoor area or in the Santa Fe 68 area, somewhere in there. Some more to come on that. The big ticket item that evening, which kept us there for 4 hours, was the vote on sales tax reduction going to the ballot in November. They decided to continue that to 2026, which I think was the right decision, to wait and see what happens with November vote on potentially repealing the Climate Commitment Act, excuse me. if that's repealed and this sales tax reduction passed, it seemed like it'd be pretty detrimental for Ben Franklin Transit. I rode the transit a lot as a kid until I saved up enough money for my jobs to buy a car. And so, again, more to come on that, but for the next couple of years, that's it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Harpster. Ms. Blaisdell.
I got to attend the grand opening for Panda Express with Mayor Serrano, Councilwoman Blanche Bras, and Adam Lincoln was there. And what was really cool about this grand opening, and it was very unique, is they gifted the city of Pasco a panda statue that sits outside their building. So that was really cool of them. So make sure you go. It's the Court Street Panda Express.
Thank you. And just to add on to that, from what I understood, this one's got a unique design architectural feature to have more of kind of like traditional Chinese roof line and that sort of thing. And apparently this is one of the first in the nation, if I understood that correctly. So, you know, this kind of shows the promise of Pasco. We've talked about how we're continually working on relationships to be, as forward thinking as possible and bring in and attract new businesses and new opportunities. And it's exciting that, we already had a Panda on 68, but we get the second one, and they're kind of deploying some new architectural features. And it was cool getting that statue and adopting a panda pet for 20 minutes. So that was good. So it was a great opening, and looking forward to them being part of the business community here. With that, we're going to move on to item 7B, which is 2024 Washington State Legislative Update. It looks like it's going to be Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, we've got our lobbying team from Gordon Thomas Honeywell. Brianna and Holly are online today to talk about the short session that we had this year. Brianna?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the introduction, City Manager Lincoln. Really appreciate your time this evening. I'm Brianna Murray. I'm joined by Holly Sanabria, and we are with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Relations. For those of you who have not interacted with us in previous years, our firm has been representing the City of Pasco since 2008, and we consider ourselves your eyes, ears, and advocates in Olympia, advocating on your behalf. We are based in Tacoma, Washington, and then during the legislative session, we are in Olympia on a daily basis. And our presentation this evening, if we can go to the next slide, we're hoping to provide you with an overview of what occurred during the 2024 legislative session that concluded last month. Including an outline of the outcome of the legislative priorities that you all adopted, and identify next steps to continue our year-round advocacy. So to dive into a rather lofty amount of material we have to present to you, I'm going to turn it over to Holly for the overview.
Thanks, Brianna. We can go to the next slide. So just to provide some context, the legislature operates on a 2-year cycle that aligns with the state's biennial budgets. So this year was the second session of the 23-25 biennium, meaning it was the short session out of the 2, lasting 60 days, beginning on January 8th and ending on time on March 7th. And for a short session, the legislature focuses on adopting supplemental budgets by making amendments or adjustments to the previous budgets that they passed in 2023. And that includes the operating, capital, and transportation budgets. There were a little over 1,100 bills introduced during the 2023 session that were not passed into law and were carried over for consideration during the 2024 session. And then in addition to those bills that were carried over, an additional 1,560 bills were introduced, and of these, the legislature passed 376 bills into law. The Democrats continue to hold the majority in both the House and Senate, and a new dynamic this short session was the introduction of 6 initiatives to the legislature. The initiatives are bills that are sponsored by Washingtonians and are ideas submitted to the legislature for their consideration. And the legislature has 3 options when presented with an initiative. They can either adopt it as presented, they can adopt a different version, and both the original and the legislature's version goes to the ballot, or they can take no action and the initiative goes directly to the ballot. So for 3 of the initiatives, the legislature chose to adopt the following as presented: vehicular pursuits, which allows an officer to engage in a vehicular pursuit if they have reasonable suspicion that someone has violated the law. This is a rollback of the legislation passed last session. Parental rights around medical, academic, and disciplinary information on their children, and the prohibition on state local income tax, which local governments do not impose income taxes that are now prohibited. For the remaining 3, the Climate Commitment Act repeal, long-term care opt-out, and the capital gains repeal, they chose to do nothing and will let the voters decide in November. So with that really quick recap, I'll share just a bit about the budget so we can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, there are 3 budgets the legislature focuses on, which are the operating, capital, and transportation budgets. The short session is dedicated to passing the supplemental budgets. So moving to the first budget, the operating budget is the largest of the 3. It funds all state agency operations, with the largest expense being K-12 education system. And the February revenue forecast, which is the forecast they used to develop the supplemental budget, predicted a $1.2 billion increase in state revenue beyond the level expected when the biennial budget was adopted. The supplemental budget allocated an additional $2.1 billion, bringing the biennial operating budget to $71.9 billion. And I think it's helpful to recognize that the biennial budget was $69 billion and the supplemental was $2 billion. So that's how small of a budget the supplemental is compared to the underlying budget. One significant outcome of the supplemental budget for many local governments is the elimination of the 25% cost share requirement for jurisdictions sending new recruits to Basic Law Enforcement Academy. That will take effect in the new state fiscal year starting July 1. It also includes $34 million allocated to local governments for homelessness and housing programs and services. Moving on to the capital budget, this budget funds public and nonprofit construction projects excluding transportation. Structurally, it is funded by bonds that derive from a portion of the operating budget. The supplemental budget is $1.3 billion, bringing the biennial capital budget to $10.3 billion. And the additional capacity primarily comes from the Climate Commitment Act, federal funds, and the Model Toxics Control Account. And there were very limited remaining bonding capacity for the supplemental. Because much of the revenue comes from the Climate Commitment Act, much of it is not available until January 2025 and is also contingent on the failure of Initiative 2117. There was $72.5 million allocated to local community projects, which is the category the city has received funding through in the past. The size of awards in a supplemental year is traditionally very small, and this year was no exception, with the average appropriation at $372,000. And notable investments in the supplemental capital budget include $127 million for the Housing Trust Fund and over $100 million in behavioral health facilities around the state. And then the transportation budget funds, obviously, the state's transportation system, which includes highway, ferries, active transportation, transit, and all transportation-related state agencies. And this was by far the most constrained of the 3 budgets, and budget writers had the greatest challenge agreeing on this budget. The supplemental budget allocates an additional $1 billion, bringing the biennial budget to $14.6 billion. And most of this new spending is directed to a handful of areas, cost overruns on 2 mega projects, including the 520 bridge and I-405, fish barrier removal, capital improvements to ferries, and highway preservation. And the new spending comes from federal funds, Climate Commitment Act revenues, and advanced Move Ahead Washington revenues. Traditional transportation revenue sources like the gas tax and license permit and other fees are down by 8% since the biennium began. So a lot to unpack here, but that's just a quick rundown of the supplemental budgets that passed this session. And we can go to the next slide.
Thank you, Holly. So one of the things that we do in coordination with the city and city council is we advise on how to develop a successful legislative agenda. And one of our key and consistent components of advice is that you all develop a legislative agenda that matches the political context for the time. And as part of that, you just heard Holly outline, that the legislature operates in a 2-year cycle. And what we just experienced earlier this year was the second year of that 2-year cycle. As such, we had advised you all as the city to look at the legislature in a 2-year cycle as well, and to develop a 2-year legislative agenda, and to look at your objectives and success in the context of that 2-year cycle. So I want to just remind you all, for those of you who have been on council, and for those of you who are new to council, make sure you are aware that in 2023, the city saw one of its most successful legislative sessions in the course of my representation of the city since 2008. The city was allocated $5 million for the processed water reuse facility, $155,000 for the downtown plaza, $3 million for Geza Stadium, $750,000 for a soccer field, and we also saw a lot of successes on the policy front. So as we move forward to the next slides, what we're going to be talking about is what successes we saw during the 2024 session, which is the second year of the biennium. And I just want you all to consider this information in the context of coming off of an incredibly successful first year of the biennium, which is where the state typically makes their largest investments. So with that context, I'll turn it over to Holly.
Thanks, Brianna. So diving into the city's legislative priorities for 2024, the first of which was to support the regional communications project requested, which was requested and led by the city of Richland, and we actively supported throughout session. The Tri-Cities region's 911 radio system is in need of upgrades, so they made a request for $4 million to begin that work. And as I mentioned earlier, during a supplemental budget year, project funding is limited at around that 300,000 range. So the budget ended up including 235,000 for that project request. Next is public safety and behavioral health. Benton County requested 1.5 million this session in the capital budget for the last phase of the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery, which was previously known as the Three Rivers Behavioral Health Recovery Center. That's in addition to last session, they received 5 million. And then next is the Initiative 2113, which I mentioned previously that the legislature passed into law. And again, it allows an officer to engage in vehicular pursuit if they have reasonable suspicion to believe that a driver has violated the law. And then another bill I'll highlight is House Bill 2088, extending liability protections. This bill extends liability protection for responders dispatched from mobile rapid response and community-based crisis teams, and also applies to responders transporting patients to behavioral health services. So we can go to the next slide.
I think it went one slide too quick. We're on the one that says transportation at the top. Thank you. Just 3 remaining of your top legislative priorities. So the first one is transportation. As you heard in Holly's recap, there was very limited transportation funding during the 2024 session, and we fully anticipated that as you all were developing your legislative agenda. However, since 2022, when the legislature adopted the Move Ahead Washington package, we have encouraged you all to keep transportation as a component of your legislative priorities, to continue beating the drum to ensure that Olympia never forgets that there are needs in the Tri-Cities area, in Pasco, for transportation funding. The 2022 Move Ahead Washington package uncharacteristically was an entirely partisan package and didn't make any investments in the Tri-Cities region. And so we want to continue to highlight for legislators the need for transportation investments in Pasco, and therefore we advise that it be included on your legislative priorities. However, as anticipated, we don't have any new project funding to report to you all this evening. Similarly, on water rights, we recognize that there needs to be new policy enacted in Olympia to allow the city to acquire the necessary water rights to meet your exploding growth. However, water right legislation is very challenging in Olympia and is a multi-year effort. Given that it was a short 60-day session, we didn't anticipate any legislation to pass into law, and that's what we saw was no real advancement. However, we wanted to continue to keep this item front and center as part of that multi-year effort. And finally, on housing, the legislature has taken on a multi-year effort related to housing and continued that multi-year effort this legislative session. Most notably, the legislature continued to allocate state funding to housing and homelessness services. So there was $127.5 million allocated to the Housing Trust Fund, and $232 million for housing and homelessness services. These may not seem like big dollar amounts in the context of a $70 billion budget, but for a supplemental allocation, these were sizable investments. Two additional bills that we would like to highlight for you all is Senate Bill 6175, which provides a property tax incentive for commercial buildings being converted to residential housing. That's a local option tool that you all can choose to use if you see it fits your community. And the ability to provide a property tax exemption for nonprofits who are constructing housing using city or county allocated funds. That was House Bill 2012. So we did see the legislature take some action on housing. One of the other components of our guidance and advice to council has been to identify your top legislative priorities, which Holly and I just outlined how those landed. But in addition to those top legislative priorities, outline a few additional items that have an impact on the city, but may not rise to the level of being one of your must-have go-home items. So moving on to the next slide, I want to just highlight a few of the items and the additional legislative issues, and then otherwise direct you to our written report, which outlines in greater detail some of these important items that impact city business, but not necessarily your top priority must go home and deliver items. So the first one I want to highlight is a budget appropriation of $150,000 for an industrial symbiosis innovation park pilot project in Pasco, and that was a request that the Port of Pasco advanced forward, that the city joined the chorus in support. Similarly, $3 million was allocated to the HAPO Center. House Bill 1870 is a bill that was sponsored by Representative Barnard that creates a mechanism for the city and other jurisdictions to more easily access federal funds. House Bill 1105 creates some administrative requirements around accepting public comment and the deadlines associated with those. You all may have to make some administrative changes in order to comply with that new law. Similarly, House Bill 1998 requires co-living, or the idea of taking a home that has multiple bedrooms and creating each of those bedrooms as being somewhat of a dorm or an individual living unit, requires the city to allow that type of housing in all residential zones. And House Bill 2321 is a trailer bill to middle housing bill that passed last legislative session. This one makes some changes around how those middle housing policies are applied, particularly in critical areas, and may require some implementation action on your front. Again, the additional legislative issues are pretty broad. They're very lengthy, so it would encourage you to look at our written report for more detail on that front. And just want to highlight for you all this two-part structure to your legislative agenda. The first being your top legislative priorities, which is where we spend the bulk of our time and energy, and the second being the additional legislative priorities. And with that, we'll move on to next steps. In the next slide. With the conclusion of the legislative session, legislators are back in district. We encourage you to thank the city's legislative delegation, not just for the action that occurred during the 2024 session, but the action during the 2023 session. Your legislative delegation and your legislators are fierce advocates on your behalf, and our partnership with them has been very strong. So encourage you to thank them, and we will be advising and looking for some more formal ways for you all to express thanks. The second item, as far as next steps go, is to look at implementing new policies and projects that were funded with state funds. This includes looking at how to bring about groundbreakings or ribbon cuttings with the funds that were appropriated in 2023. Following the conclusion of the legislative session, all members of the House of Representatives and half the members of the Senate are up for re-election. We saw a large number of legislators choose to not seek re-election, and we also saw the courts come down with new districts for the upcoming election, and that there's a direct impact on those new districts for the city of Pasco. So as we look between now and the 2025 legislative session, we anticipate a lot of new legislative faces, not just due to retirements, but also due to redistricting. And that reshuffling is going to have an impact on the advice and guidance that we give to you all as we move forward. One of the things that we want to do with you all in the coming months is develop an interim action plan and look at how best to prepare for the 2025 session. Our hope is that we will have time with you all in the summer months, in the May, June, July time period, where we can really talk about what you all would like to accomplish during the 2025-2027 legislative biennium, so the 2025 and 2026 legislative sessions. The 2025 legislative session begins on January 13th. However, I will note that good lobbying oftentimes occurs year-round, and the best lobbying occurs long before the legislative session begins, which is why we want to work with you all to develop those 2025 objectives sooner rather than later. With that, we'll move on to the last slide. Holly and I are available to answer any questions you all may have, and I'll just note that we greatly appreciated advocating on your behalf and look forward to preparing for the 2025 session before turning it over to you, Mayor, to field any questions.
Thank you, Brianna and Holly. I see Mr. Grimm's light is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Brianna and Holly, for continuing to advocate for the city of Pasco and for your past accomplishments, especially in 2023, and just what you were able to get done in the short session here in 2024. And we recently had our retreat and kind of ran out of time to discuss some of these issues in detail, but just my early bug to keep putting in about a Road 76 overpass. I heard everything you said about transportation, and as I can continue to convince the rest of my council members of making that a priority, I even visited with Representative Barnard, hoping that the bill you mentioned she passed, could potentially even open up some federal funds for us. And I also had the opportunity to talk to Senator Binky about this, who told me that one of the best resources of getting some funds for this project is on the Benton Franklin Council of Governments, to which the mayor appointed me to. So I'm looking at getting leverage from that angle too. But just looking forward to working with you guys in the next couple of years, especially on this Road 76 project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question, more of a clarification. I know when majority of this council kind of came on during an election year, and a lot of these legislative priorities were kind of already sealed up and approved before we even hit hit our seats here. And so I just wanted to kind of get a general idea of maybe during election years we don't put out things yet, because we never know if things are going to change. Because there was a couple things that I wasn't in favor of, which I actually put testimony towards that I was not in favor of, like SB 5770, property tax increase in it. every year. So it was kind of a thought that I had, and I wanted to bounce it off our lobbyists. Would that hurt us in the long run if we were to wait during, city council election years? Because we never know if maybe next, in the next municipal elections, we all get thrown out. So it was just a thought because, this council did change. And so, and they already got sent off and it got approved. And so just a thought. So I'd like to hear a comment back to that.
Yeah, thank you, council member. And for your awareness, we represent several different cities throughout the state, and we're pretty familiar with that dynamic. And it is challenging timing. And I would just note that's an understatement. From our perspective, we want to be successful advocates on your behalf. And in order to be successful with the legislative agenda, we need to have that direction much sooner than when the new council comes into office in January. The legislative session starts that second Monday in January every single year. And in order to be successful, we often have to do a lot of work throughout the summer months, the fall months leading up to that January beginning in order to be successful. How we've balanced that in the past is for the outgoing council to adopt a legislative agenda and the timelines that we recommend. And then if the new council comes in and wants to make amendments to it, they would be able to do so, and those amendments would then change the direction of our advocacy. I will note that in our experience, the bulk of the amendments that new councils come in and want to make to a legislative agenda are focused on more broader policy issues rather than funding requests for projects or a bill that we're working on that has a unique and direct impact to the city of Pasco. And so in that way, it kind of strikes this balance of allowing us to work on the very specific Pasco only items and still accomplish a great deal of success. And at the same time allow you to express a different position than the outgoing council on some of the broader policy issues. I hope that was helpful in answering the question.
It was, thank you.
Any other questions or comment for either Brianna or Holly or both? Seeing none, I will just say to both Brianna and Holly, thank you very much for your dedication. We as a council, I myself, and stand ready to help as needed, as you know. I'm always hesitantly happy to go up to Olympia during legislative session or otherwise, but no, in all seriousness, we're grateful for your expertise and your willingness to work on our behalf, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I may, one other final comment. Our advocacy in Olympia really is a team effort. It requires your all's engagement, but it also requires the engagement of a lot of different city staff members who review legislation to determine the impact of state proposals on the city's current policies. And so I would just give a huge thanks to City Manager Lincoln and his department directors and staff members who spent a great deal of their time providing us with the information and resources to be effective advocates. And a huge thanks to you all for your engagement and continued engagement as we look to prepare for 2025. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move on to item number 8, which is executive session tonight. And we have discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1, Roman numeral I. We've got that listed for 25 minutes. Does anyone need a break for a couple minutes ahead of that? Okay, so I've got one request, so let's do a 5-minute break. So we'll start at 8:05 and we'll roll into 8:30 in executive session. We'll be back. It is 8:30 and we've returned from our executive session. Having no further action under item 8, we're going to move on to item number 9, which is hearings and council action on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto. We have one item, item A, public hearing and ordinance number 4711, dissolution of the Downtown Pasco Development Authority. And I know this is listed as Deputy City Manager Sigdell, who is online. So I'll kick it to you, Richa.
And council, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I think we can hear you now. Go ahead.
This item is something that council has discussed for quite some time, especially in the last 3-4 months. This would be dissolution of our downtown PDA, and we've discussed this item due to some of the audit findings and looking at the usability of this organization for the city at this point. And the staff is recommending at this time for dissolution and looking into options for development of downtown via other means, which we're not sure at this time, but it's definitely avenues that we can explore. At this time, PSK, which is Pasco Specialty Kitchen, as well as the Farmers Market, which are both city assets that DPDA had been operating on behalf of the city, have been returned to the city. And the city has been operating both of these assets in the last almost a year since DPDA effectively and operationally was not effective, as in when the executive director resigned last year. So at this time, we are recommending dissolution of this organization due to all of the issues that you've heard about in the last 4 or 5 months. And we're recommending that action to council.
Thank you, Ms. Sigdell. Do we have any questions or comments from council before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, with that, we are going to now open this public hearing for comment. Mr. Holder. Can you turn on the mic, please? There we go.
Council and city staff. I would present this motion that you table this ordinance pending resolution of several very important issues. A civil complaint was filed in Franklin County Superior Court on Friday. Arthur West is the plaintiff and the DPDA versus DPDA and the board members. And it was reported erroneously that there were secret meetings and missing money is the headline in the Tri-City Herald. So the dissolution of the DPDA at this time is a very bad look. And will the city pay the attorney's fees for the board members? Don't throw those volunteer board members under the bus. The existence of DPDA is the corporate veil that the city must have at this time for this civil action. And subsequent to the report of the city auditor, that office has received missing corporate minutes, etc., and an updated report has been requested. Arthur West's complaint relies upon the factually incomplete auditor's report. And Arthur West is barred. The trial court concluded after a review of the record that Mr. West deliberately and willfully hindered the efficient administration of justice and substantially prejudiced the port, justifying the sanction of dismissal. Also, Plaintiff Arthur West is barred from further litigation in the United States District Court, Western District of Washington, even under the most generous reading of any of Arthur West's endless complaints. This court concludes that West is a vexatious litigant that has abused his privilege to request judicial relief and has clogged the court's docket with an unending string of factually and legally meritless claims, wasting precious judicial resources and distracting the court from other pleadings worthy of the court's time and attention. The corporation DPDA is a very large investment by the city of Pasco, and it has great economic development advantages like grants, B&O tax offset, Main Street program, and others. Don't throw these advantages away. With the new bridge and the downtown Pasco development plan, it would be prudent to maintain DPDA to participate in the future of downtown Pasco. Once dissolved, it'll be gone forever, and that would be very sad indeed. Move to table the dissolution of DPDA pending resolution of these very important legal, policy, and financial items. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any additional public comment on this subject? Mr. Cortines.
David Cortines, 4501 Moline Lane. First of all, I don't need to speak for Mr. Arthur. I've been in contact with him. He has not filed a complaint yet with the Franklin County Courthouse. He has accidentally left a couple of names off that he will be adding to that lawsuit, and he will be filing it here soon. And then will be hand delivering the lawsuit to the DPDA board members. So that's the fact, that's the truth. Okay. I've been investigating the DPDA since 2012 when Gary Crutchfield disbanded the Pasco Downtown Development Association. Then he formed with the Downtown Pasco Development Association, or the Downtown Pasco Development Association, DPDA. 3 times they had failed their audits. The second time that they failed their audit in 2017, Mr. Goins, the executive director, was criminalized, went to jail. The total number came closer to $200,000 that were missing. This organization has been corrupt for many, many years. Many of us have come before this council, well, not this council, but the city council members, to disband and to stop funding the DPDA for years. We have seen it over and over and over, the type of money that has been missing from the DPDA management. Everybody that you saw their names on that lawsuit were board members at the time, plus 2, and the treasurer was not on that lawsuit. The 2017 opened up eyes. The city of Pasco has always had a city council member assisting all of their meetings, attending all of their meetings. Every month there's a city council member there. I attended many of them. The city council also, the city also has Rick White, who attended every month. And not one time, like Mr. Perales said in one of his comments, why didn't the city intervene with all this every time there's a report missing that there's monies or they're in the negative or they're in the red? Why didn't the representative from the administration come back and say, hey guys, we have to do something, or make a report to the city of Pasco, we need to intervene here. We appoint these board members. We do the interviews. We appoint them. So for the city to say, oh, we don't get involved, but you took their assets. You can
wrap it up, Mr.
Well, I think this is an open public meeting. I don't have 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor. They did not. Nobody intervened these things. I have some very important documents that I want to share with you. Mr. Grimm has called to criminalize all of these people involved. And I've got some important information for you, Mr. Grimm, that you will be very much interested in. There was a letter by interim executive director Oscar Martinez. They hired a JT Promotions in the last Cinco de Mayo meeting. They hired a promoter to come in and bring all these groups. They had a contract with him for $4,500. They ended up paying him $90,000. Plus a $7,500 entertainment fee. Plus, he got in trouble and he asked for a personal loan. And Mr. Portugal wrote a check for $4,800 as a personal loan. There's a letter here. Here's the letter that Mr. Oscar Martinez requesting the $48,707 that he requested to pay that money back. I met with Oscar after this letter was written on May 22nd, 2022. He said, we met with him, he's going to pay us back. Well, he sent him an invoice, Mr. Grimm, an invoice for exactly that amount of money to pay him back, to pay the organization back that money. So I want to turn this document into the for the record, and a copy of the invoice and a copy of the check for $7,500 entertainment fee, the letter requesting the $47,000, and a letter requesting for a loan, a personal loan of $4,800. We warned the DPDA about this guy. I have also a list of more than $500,000 that this guy owes to a bunch of promoters and events. I called him up and asked him, yeah, he still owes me that money. He hasn't paid me. So I'm going to turn that document in also of all the money that he has. Here's the document letter that he requests $4,800 for a personal loan. And they give him a personal loan on that, you know. So
Mr. Cortines, can I ask you to?
It's really something that the city has been involved in these meetings and never intervened with these documents. The other thing is that we have seen that very same day that the group showed up, those groups showed up to Pasco to perform. They said, hey, we didn't get paid. The promoter didn't pay us. So Mike Gonzalez from the city staff went to the office and said, I need $21,501.78 to finish paying off these bands because they're not going to perform if we don't pay them. So Mike Gonzalez went to the office, grounded up all the cash he could get, and he signed a document here representing the city of Pasco that Mike Gonzalez gave Mario Cantu from the Mafia representative $21,501.78. That's how we got to $300,000. Since 2012 that I've been investigating the DPDA, my numbers are closer to $880,000 to $1 million that I believe the funds are missing. Now, the audit you guys got was only from 22 and 23. That was the audit you have. That's the numbers you got for $300,000. But like they're requesting a scope from the time they started to the end, my numbers are a lot more closer to $1 million missing. Now we've got a city council member that was involved. We have a staff member that was involved in Cinco de Mayo's. Both years, the monies were missing also. And we keep hearing, oh, city's not involved. City's not involved. We can't intervene. But we've always had representation from the city, from the council, from the administration, in all of these meetings, which has left you guys open to liability. Even though your attorney continues telling you no, but I believe it has. So with some of this information that I have more, I have flash drives, and I have a pile of documentation. I turned them over to the Pasco Police Department, okay? And I talked to the chief about it. I said, Chief, you have a case number.
Mr. Cortines,
we haven't heard.
I would ask you to please wrap it up.
I'll wrap it as soon as I get my information out and get it on record.
Okay,
and
hang
this
on
is
a
a
second.
public meeting.
Mr. Cortines, one moment. Okay, Mr. Mayor, so you're the chair of the meeting. what we need to do is set the parameters for, you can set the parameters as the chair of the meeting, you can set the parameters for people that talk. What viewpoint they talk from is completely up to them. But at this point, I would encourage you to set a time limit for everyone that comes up to be able to speak, no matter what their viewpoint. And I would establish that now, that way everybody knows that what amount of time that they're gonna have to be able to speak. It's not a meeting where somebody can just continue to go on and on.
At this point,
And I'll do the best to wrap it up.
no, you're done.
So.
No, Mr.
all I-
Cortines,
Mr.
I'm not asking
Serrano,
you.
That all I can finish to say is this. You guys voted to defund the DPDA. Two of you yourself and Mr. Milne voted not to support giving any more funds. I give you kudos to both of you guys for not to give any more funds. But the city of Pasco voted to double down $240,000 last year with an investigation of the police department, an audit, and the city of Pasco still passed by the last council $240,000. Thank you, Mr. Serrano, for your time. Thank you, council members, for your time. I'm going to turn these documents over to your clerk. These are documents that I did a public request from, and I'm requesting even more. Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment here? No. Yeah, you've had your chance. Do we have any additional public comment? Third and final chance. I apologize, Mr. Holder. That was probably disrespectful of me. I shouldn't have snapped that way. With that, we're now closing the public hearing, and we're moving on to either if council has any further questions or comments. If not, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Perales.
I'll be brief, Mayor. Yeah, I just think it's time to move on. I think the Downtown Development Authority, Pasco DPDA, didn't live up to its promise. And as the audit report has indicated, and many other reports, I think it's time to dissolve this thing. And maybe on a future date, we can entertain another entity to be a 501c3, but I would advise this board tonight to dissolve this, and so we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perales. Any additional comments from council? Mr. Harpster.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that it's come to this. I think staff and council and those who were involved in 2010 had nothing but the best intentions in mind. And one of the goals in the beginning was to improve downtown. I think we would all agree since 2010 it has improved. Moving forward, I have complete faith in staff, specifically our CED department and Mr. Gonzalez, and I'm looking forward to the work that they'll do. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional public comment from council or a comment from council? Hearing none, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4711, formally dissolving the Downtown Pasco Development Authority and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
I think Mr. Harpster was first there. So with that, I don't believe there's a need for a roll call vote here. Nope, just a voice vote. With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Item number 10, ordinances and resolutions not relating to hearings. Resolution number 4443, surplus of city property along Argent Road, and that is tagged for Ms. Sigdell as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No significant changes from our presentation from last week. What this action, if council approves, it would surplus this property on the intersection of 20th and Argent. And we're also doing a request for proposal for any development out there, as this is a key piece of property that will be critical for the airport, CBC, as well as multiple hotels that are in the area. So we're looking forward to what kind of proposals we receive and being able to sell this property for the right use.
Thank you, Ms. Sigdell. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Seeing and hearing none. Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4443, declaring city-owned real property surplus, setting the minimum price and method of sale for parcel number 113300252, and further authorize city manager to sell the property through realtor listings for a minimum price determined through market analysis.
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Moving on to item B, ordinance number 4712, amending PMC subsection 2.05.020 subsection 2, related to public comments during regular workshop meetings, and this is teed up for Mr. Lincoln.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So this is an item that had been discussed in open session as well as at the City Council's retreat. The item before you is staff's attempt at making sure we've captured the council's will to allow for public comments during workshops. It provides the specifications of providing equal time for each item that comes up on the agenda if there's a for and against. Otherwise, it still limits the time to 8 minutes total. And I think that was our capture of staff's direction, but happy to make any amendments if need be.
Do we have any questions or comments from council on this item? Mr. Hart, let's go Mr. Harpster first.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just happy to see it's come before us. Thanks for staff's work and Ms. Ferguson's work on this. Just speaking for myself, not everybody, but the goal was just give folks an opportunity to lend their opinion for workshop items, specifically those that typically go from workshop to consent agenda. Might be minor in nature, but wanted to give the opportunity to get people to express their opinion more often, and I just hope people don't abuse it. Thanks.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agree with Councilman Harpster's sentiments, and I'd just like to add that, this is one of the goals of our council is to make ourselves more open to the public, to be more transparent, to give more opportunities for the public to weigh in, to speak to some of these issues we are working through. So anyways, yeah, I'd also like to thank staff for their work on this and look forward to passing.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to applaud the efforts of Councilmember Grimm and Harpster. They're the ones that really kind of brought it up, and I share in that value of transparency, accountability in our local government. I think it was striking to see during the last couple of surveys that City of Pasco's, when it comes to trust, it's pretty low in regards to people who are filling out those surveys. And so I hope this is just a good gesture in the right direction so that we can start kind of shoring up that trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prowse. Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to say thank you to staff. I do appreciate it, and I will say that previous council, myself included, have brought it up in the past, but it didn't seem like we got any traction from the council. So I just want to say thank you to the council members for being adamant on that, and so I'm looking forward to this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milne. Just to add little context here, so again, and I know you went through this really quickly, Mr. Lincoln, but I just want to reiterate to the public. We're going to have up to 2 minutes per person with a total of 8 minutes per item. That assumes opposing sides, which would then allocate 4 minutes per side. In other words, two 2-minute comments per side. And this is limited to items that are placed on the workshop. This will not be general public comment. It will be limited to the workshop items. I want to be clear about that. Now, personally, I oppose this, and you'll hear that in my vote. Quite frankly, I think it's important that we have the opportunity to express public opinion, but I am concerned with how this will get played out, and I'm hopeful that we'll stay within the parameters as designed. So, do we have any additional comments from council member?
I guess I want to clarify my statement. And I brought it up just to get more transparency at a workshop. Wasn't that, like you say, you're against it? I would like to see how this plays out. I was saying years ago it was brought up to have more transparency. That was all, and I do appreciate us trying to attempt to see what we could do to make this, more transparency with our constituents. So kind of more clarification. Wasn't that it was always
Yeah, no,
disheard? It was just trying to be more transparent. So
I don't take it as a shot at all. I just wanted to, let my thoughts be known before I get asked as to why I vote no. So, Mr. Milne, seeing no further comment from council, will you please make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4712, amending Pasco Municipal Code, subsection 2.05.020, related to public comments during regular workshop meetings and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
I think I'll give that one to Graham because I gave the last tie to Harpster. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Passes 4-2. With that, it passes. Moving on to item item letter C. This is ordinance number 4713, Ochoa rezone from RS20 to RS1. And I see Mr. Gonzalez, your mic teed up and your name on the agenda.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of council. As shown, this is an item related to a petition for a rezone. As displayed on the screen, the requirements for a zoning petition are codified in the Pasco Municipal Code in Chapter 25. Some of the criteria that must be met include whether the changed conditions warrant the request, along with the alignment with the adopted Pasco Comprehensive Plan. On the next slide is the process for the petition for rezone, which requires a public hearing in front of the Pasco hearing examiner to be followed by a determination by City Council. This particular zoning petition is located near Holly Court and Road 56. There'll be a small map on the next slide. The site is approximately 3.3 acres. It is currently zoned RS20, and the comprehensive plan land use is low-density residential. The applicant is seeking a zone change to the R1 low-density residential zoning district. A public hearing was conducted by the hearing examiner on March 13th. No appeals of the zone change were received on the application itself or the environmental checklist associated with the request as well. Generally, the change meets the Pasco Comprehensive Plan standards for low-density residential areas, and it is also in alignment with various land use and housing elements associated with the adopted comprehensive plan. So the hearing examiner did recommend approval of the zoning petition on March 15th. That determination, along with an ordinance, is attached to the staff report for your review, and staff concurs with the hearing examiner and is happy to answer any questions we can this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I see the city attorney, and he's going to have the fun script for us.
Yes, exactly. So this is a quasi-judicial hearing or proceeding to render a final decision on the materials presented. It's defined as proceeding which the council defines legal rights, duties, and privileges of specific parties in a hearing, proceeding, or other contested proceeding. The appearance of fairness doctrine applies, and the hearing must be fair in three respects: form, substance, and appearance. All council members should consider whether they have potential conflicts as follows. A demonstrated bias for or against any of the parties. B, any direct or indirect financial interest in the outcome of the proceeding which would affect the council members personally. C, whether there has been any prejudgment of the issues prior to the hearing of the facts. D, whether there has been any ex parte contact with anyone other than the staff prior to this hearing. And finally, E, any other conflict which a council member believes would prevent them from hearing this matter fairly and impartially. If any council member has any of these concerns or disclosures, now would be the time to make those known. Seeing none, are there any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in these proceedings? Seeing none, please proceed.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments from council on this issue? Mr. Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify, I'm going to be voting no, and that's only because I kind of feel like this area, people live in that area to not have such high density, and I'm not really sure exactly what the applicant is going to be doing, but I take it's going to develop some property. I just think sometimes we just should leave things kind of the way they are, especially where they live. And so I think the character fits well kind of where it's zoned at right now. So I just want to clarify my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prowse. City Attorney, do you have your light on? Okay, no, it's fine. I just want to make sure Didn't need anything else. Seeing no further lights on from council, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4713, amending the zoning classification of certain real property located on the northwest corner of Castle Holly Court and Road 56, Pasco, Franklin County, Washington, from RS-20 residential suburban to R1 low-density residential, and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
Hearing a motion from Mr. Milne and a second from Mr. Harpster. All in favor, can we get an aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Would
Nay.
say- oh,
Aye.
oh, okay, sorry. Okay. No, so that's okay. So it sounds like we've got 5 ayes to 1 nay. Is that correct? All right. Moving along to item D, resolution number 4444, Public Works Board, $1 million loan agreement, Butterfield Waste WTP improvements, pre-construction. And I see Miss Sarah, go ahead and kick it off to your staff.
Good evening. For this item, we will have our senior engineer Puna Clark present.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. This project is to authorize the execution of a $1 million loan grant agreement, with the loan of being $850,000 and the grant portion being $150,000 with the Public Works Board for the Butterfield Water Treatment Plant Improvements Project. The Butterfield Water Treatment Plant here is shown in its current state. Let's see. And here is a rendering of the work that we will be doing in the future once after construction. So as I mentioned, the loan is for $1 million total for loan and grant. There is a 1.38 interest rate for 5 years term. And we will be doing an electrical building currently with a permanent standby generator. Are there any questions?
Seeing no questions or comments, thank you. Mr. Milne, can I get a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4444, authorizing the city manager to execute a $1 million loan/grant, $850,000 loan and $150,000 grant with the Public Works Board for the Butterfield Water Treatment Plant Improvements Project.
Second.
All right, Mr. Milne, and then a second by Mr. Harpster. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. With that, move on to item number 11, unfinished business, and seeing none, and seeing a head shake, looks like there is none. Item 12, new business, Mr. Lincoln. Item 13, miscellaneous discussion. Mr. Lincoln, the light is on this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for the mixed signals there. We've got a few updates tonight. First, starting with our interim Public Works Director, Maria Serra, with some good news.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So we wanted to share with you that last Thursday, City of Pasco was recognized with a American Public Works Association Project of the Year Award for the Wastewater Treatment Plant Improvements Project Phase 1. I was at the conference, so I was able to receive the award there and thank everybody that made it possible. And I wanted to highlight that this project was a true testament to collaboration. We had not just our typical team of people working on it, we also had different departments and even our funding agencies and oversight agencies to make it successful. We were able to accomplish the substantial completion of the project with 10 months of design only, which is incredible for the complexity of the project, and just under 2 years of construction. That project is currently operational. We're awaiting some electrical equipment to be installed, but it is, for all intents and purposes, in operation currently.
And if there's no questions, Director Gonzalez has a few updates.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Wanted to share with Council and members of the public that on April 19th, The city will be hosting a presentation from the recently formed Benton Franklin Housing Consortium. That'll take place at 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers at the Pasco Planning Commission. This will be an opportunity for the recently formed consortium, which is comprised of a joint memorandum of understanding between the Housing Authority of Franklin County and Pasco and the Housing Authority of Kennewick, to provide an update on their efforts to address housing needs in the community. So that should be an informative presentation the first time they've been in front of the Planning Commission. And then also wanted to share a brief update that we are working and meeting, establishing some meetings with the proponent of a proposed change to the Pasco Municipal Code with respects to the sign code and update to look at permitting billboards along applicable areas. So we intend to bring back an update to council, hopefully by the end of May, with an update on that effort, and we'll keep council updated on that effort. Thank you.
And Director Rice.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Just wanted to provide an update that Mayor Pro Tem Milne referred to earlier, which is our Arbor Day event, Washington State Arbor Day event, held on April 10th. I have a couple of photos of that. You'll notice how straight that tree is there on the left side. So experts. But that day was over at Kurtzman Park, again included our Mayor Pro Tem and our some of our Head Start class children came out. We were able to help plant 15 trees provided by the Department of Natural Resources. So it was a pretty good event and really nice day. So we're grateful for the weather as well. And then on April 26th, we'll be having our National Arbor Day celebration over at Highlands Park, where we'll again plant another 15 trees. We'll be inviting both of the local elementary students to attend those as well. So if you'd like to come out, you're welcome to join us, plant some trees, and we'll see if you compare to the tree on the left there or not. So thank you.
And then Deputy City Manager Sigdell, are you on?
Yes, I am. I do not have any miscellaneous items.
We've got your map that you were going to talk about real fast.
Oh, thank you. Thank
You're
you for that reminder. Sorry, I've not been feeling that great today. I'm a little bit off. We do have an update for council regarding Lewis Street overpass. And as Mr. Cortinas earlier mentioned, the discussions that the city is having weekly on with the business owners there who are impacted. And this is the map on the screen is the impacted area that council selected last week. And what the discussions with the business owners has been, there's been differing voices in this, as in some of the businesses would like for us to include Third Avenue. So essentially the map would go from Third Avenue up to Main, across from Oregon. But there are also businesses from 5th and 6th and across from Oregon who are contacting us about their businesses being impacted due to the construction going on in the overpass overall. The staff are ready with the applications. We are, we would like to open this up as per council's direction from last week, as early as possible, before the action for the approval of funding happens on May 1st. We will be putting in a language there for the application that the applications would be approved if the action is approved on May 1st. So at this point, the impact of expanding this map, as I mentioned before, is the fact that we have limited amount of funding. The number of businesses in the map that you're looking at is about 27 from our research. And if we expand it out to Third Avenue, you're looking at about 37 businesses. And if you expand that even further out, you're looking at a much larger number. The impact of the maximum that we can go for each business, assuming that everybody is going to be qualified for the full amount, is 15,000. With this current map on the screen, and we expand that to third, you're looking at about $10,000 per business. So at this point, we are looking for letting council know that we're going to be moving forward with opening up the application, hopefully by end of this week. And if council desires to change the map from the last discussion, staff is open to that, and we can revise the application accordingly.
Thank you, Ms. Sigdell. I see Mr. Peralta, lights on.
Oh, I was actually going to talk about other stuff, not about this thing.
Okay. Well, okay. Mr. Grimm then.
Yeah, I was missed part of this discussion last week, and I guess I'd just like to chime in and say that, you know, it doesn't matter to me where we draw the line, but I think it does need to be drawn somewhere. There needs to be some limit. This is, let's face it, you guys, this is the major east-west corridor of the entire city, and to close it down is going to affect a lot of businesses and a lot of people, how it has been. But you know, if the blue box gets too big, it's going to be, you know, extremely diluted, and, you know, perhaps those that are the most affected, you know, won't get the help they need. So I just think we as a council need to have a firm blue box, if you will, of those that we intend to help that perhaps need it the most, you know, some firm limit on funds, and just really, I think it's important that we make sure that this, you know, is a precedent setting, because you can drive anywhere in the city of Pasco right now and there are orange cones and road work. And I think at some point we open ourselves up to the entire city looking at us for some kind of help. And so I can see this as really just a unique situation, but I think at some point we do need to look at drawing a firm line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Harpster.
Yeah, in short, I agree. We've already expanded it over to the east side of the bridge or overpass, and we could continue on forever, and we could get the Dress family in here. Say Ranch and Home's been impacted, and folks from Burger Ranch or whatever. But as it is now, I think it's great. Folks calling in to staff that own businesses is one thing, but folks sitting here in the audience is another. They've been coming every single week over the last 7 or 8 weeks. One other comment regarding this is nobody's mentioned that this project, this portion of the project is on time and scheduled to be complete, I believe, next week. And so that's a huge kudos to staff and the contractor and Miss Sarah, sorry, it took me a second, for keeping that on pace. So that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Harpster. Ms. Blaisdell.
I think last week we discussed this map in pretty deep detail. I don't believe that we should be expanding it any more than we already have.
Thank you. It sounds like staff's looking for some sort of direction.
I think we have it. Yeah.
Okay. I guess to the extent that anyone has an opposing point, please make that known, but then rally the other three. Hearing that, Mr. Prowse, your light was on for...
Just one last comment. To Mr. Cortinez's comment earlier, I did look up a UEI number and all that kind of stuff. And yes, of course, I don't have one. Most businesses don't, because it is for grants. But, you know, I went straight to the website, you know, when you mentioned me by name there. And it does look, I mean, I kind of dread saying this, that the government's potentially made it easy. But it looks like they are trying to simplify it for people to get that number. But the sole purpose of that UEI number is for something like this. So I'd encourage any of the businesses looking for that to go forward and get that number. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had a question about the update on the digital reader board signs policy that we kind of directed staff almost 2 months ago, but I'm glad to hear that something's being done with that, with the sign policy. So that answers that one. And then I'm not sure if this is probably the best way to come across with this, is that there's been some time since we've heard about the B4, you know, development complaints about cul-de-sacs, grading on somebody's property. And so I thought perhaps we were going to see something kind of in public to address some of those things, unless that's not the proper way. But, you know, I'm for transparency, and so I just wanted to see if, I haven't seen nothing come through my email, so I wanted to see if there was any updates in regards to a lot of those items that have been brought to us in chambers.
Wasn't the intention of staff to bring something forward to council. The meetings with representatives from B4 happens on a fairly regular cycle. I don't know that it's necessarily anything that there's a policy discussion over that would be brought forward. It'd probably be a good conversation between yourselves and Mr. Bauman if there's something specific that you're looking for. But
Okay.
I can assure you that the meetings are happening. Deputy City Manager Sigdell meets fairly regularly along with Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay.
But trying to smooth over the issues that have been brought up and probably will continue to be brought up.
Okay. I appreciate that. I just wasn't sure if that was proper for us to contact him about some of those things. I mean, they're complaints. and so
By all means.
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then I guess, I know it's been brought up before. What's the status of the Columbia Buildings Appeals Commission? It's my understanding that the city of Pasco is kind of the lead on that under the guidance of BF Cog. And so I haven't really seen anything about that.
Yeah, so we're not the lead on that. That's to the BF Cog. They have to reconstitute that board. There is some references in our code. They're not for what some of the folks that have attempted to try to utilize that board. That's not what their goal is for. They're for building trades folks to be able to look at techniques and certain aspects. So unfortunately, that's really out of our control, and then really something that we need to. We've had some responses back from BFCOG, and I can chase down what the latest was, but unfortunately, that's something that's outside of our control, and we need to probably address on our end because we can't really make them have that available. We're a member of it, but we certainly can't constitute it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
I believe Mr. Grimm, you were next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make one last comment about the DPDA earlier, since my name was also brought up a couple times. And yes, I am very resolved for the sake of transparency to see where this forensic audit goes and everything. Again, for the sake of the confidence and the trust of the public, my three goals, at least as a council member, remain the same. That we try to recover whatever funds we can possible. That if there was some kind of, criminal wrongdoing, that hopefully that can get, exposed. And, we don't get to press charges, but that, would at least get forwarded on, to the prosecuting attorney and everything. But yes, this is a, really serious matter, and it's a big matter of public confidence and trust. And, yes, just going to kind of follow and see where all this goes. I mean, at this point we've turned it over to the auditing firm, and really it's up to them to dig in and see what they can find. And I look forward to the results, just to provide that information for the public, really, and just to continue to build that trust with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Ms. Blaisdell.
Thank you. Adam, I have a question regarding a point Mr. Cortines brought up. He said the federal grant money, and I believe you just sent us an email at 7:30. They have to have one of these things to qualify. Is that?
That's my understanding.
Okay, so either U.S. citizen, permanent temporary resident authorized to work, ITIN, and UEI. That, just to clarify.
That's what I was provided by staff, yeah.
That is correct. So there's many ways of qualifying. Having a UEI number is not the only way to qualify.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that was clarified for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blaisdell. I do have one quick item of miscellaneous business. Mr. Milne and I sit on the law enforcement officer and firefighters, man, my kids got me saying firefighters, pension board. And with that, one of the issues that we're finding is that these retirees are not receiving reimbursements for their Medicare Part B premiums. Now, in 2001, when our resolution was adopted, my understanding is that was unallowable reimbursement cost. And again, I may be wrong here, but my understanding of the history is that it wasn't available then, and now it's available. And so Mr. Milne and I had a meeting tonight with the board members, and I personally believe it would be appropriate for the city to reimburse these Part B premiums, and would like us to bring forward a resolution to rescind the old resolution and make that an allowable expense / reimbursement. I believe I'd have to grab the numbers offhand. I think we've got about 2 dozen, and I think it's like roughly $150 to $175 a month. So that's the factor that we're talking about. And again, these are folks who have retired out of our systems, law enforcement and firefighters. So these are people who have given service hours, careers to the community of Pasco. So that's my position. I'm not going to speak for Mr. Milne, but it sounded like he was supportive of that.
Yeah, you're right. I was supportive of that, and I know Pasco is one of the cities that didn't offer that, so the other cities do. So again, I would ask for people that have given all and work really hard to keep our city safe with fire and medical services, that we support them in their time of need. So it's not a big ask, and felt it was something that was definitely worth our discussion and hopefully our support.
Yeah, and thank you. To that point, Franklin County, Kennewick, West Richland, and Walla Walla and Yakima are designated as cities or a county that make those payments. Mr. Harpster.
I would definitely lend my support to that, 100%.
Okay. I hear 3 strong yeses. I guess, do we have any opposing points? No, we're just going to direct staff to go ahead and bring that resolution forward.
We'll work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, though, Mr. Perales. With that, I think that's it for us, right? Mr. Lincoln, your light's not on. I see no further lights from council. With that, it is 9:22, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.